The discussion is about the political system of Islam, and it has become a very common discussion now, and it is not now limited. So the question is, what is the political system of Islam, or whether Islam has a political system, and whether, if yes, so with what specifications? So shall we get the political issues from religion, or the religion has given this to the representatives of the society? This question, especially in Afghanistan, where we have extremists and Islamists, and currently we are in the category of Republic and Emirate. We are now in this panel, and we would like to discuss it. We have Mr. Mohiq, who is a scholar, Mr. Hanif Amiri, university professor, and Saida Mujgane Mustafawi, university professor, and myself. I will be the moderator for this panel. We will start with Mr. Mohiq, and he will discuss about the understanding from the beginning of Islam. Mr. Mohiq, we will hear from you. Greetings to all the panelists, Mr. Amiri and Ms. Mustafawi, yourself, and others who have the chance of watching this program. So in this program, I will try to be very concise due to the limitation of time. And so that others also would have the chance to speak. Therefore, the issue that you have mentioned is the relations between Islam and the current situation. We all agree with that, and therefore, so it has been mentioned. And of course, there were a lot of issues and differences of ideas on in that regard. So we might need some time in order to get to a consensus. But one of the ways that helps us to understand the views of this issue is the ideological differences. If we see it from the academic and research point of view, we probably might open a way to be able to see a brighter image, and that is the way to see the beginnings of Islam, when Islam first came, and therefore it has roots for all the various ways of Islamic thoughts. From my point of view, the history of Islam needs to be reread very seriously. We have to read it once again. One is the commentaries that are registered in our books. In other books, and those who have quoted is but therefore the parts of those history or taken in and highlighted in that has been changed to the to those areas such as the Sawadi Azam. So we need that once again to return to the text that are provided to us, and to reread that part of the history. And with that, then we have to move beyond it, like the other scholars have their understandings and have presented. So we also need to see it and answer it as per the current questions and current needs of our societies. History, of course, Mr. Amiri is here, is a text. And every text has its own readings, and therefore we who study the history and we believe in this, that quotation from one hand is not right about any history, and in fact each historian has come in and has written parts of the histories, historical incidents with some specific views and specific aspects, whether it is historical or economical or political, and that became the history, and other parts of the history is not in our access. So we try to see it from far away, and see the elements in the structures and the indicators that are given to us to remake that image. Going beyond those quotations require that we need to agree on the method, and therefore they also had their own methods on those narratives, and therefore they had it, and it is based on a collection of that, how they wrote the views before themselves, and they had their own method, and they wrote it, and they gave it to others, and it continued until the time that we received those narrations and those quotations. With the current improvements, we see some of the deficiencies in their methods, and these they have worked very serious efforts in this regard, and only the narratives or the narrations or the traditional narratives that came to us are not enough or are not sufficient. So therefore it is that we need to see very strong evidences that are part of the history, and we have to evaluate it, and also see the evidences, and a major part of the work is that we need to get the objective, and we need to make a relation and a coordination, a logical coordination to that, because every principle has a logic. Whatever they have said, in what is understood from that, but the writer has not mentioned that, for example, parts of a text and the objectives of a text, how it implies, or the implications of that text. And therefore the scholars who have worked is about the said points in the text, not the implications that also gives messages. So either they were not paid attention to, or they were moved into margins. So therefore, if we come back to the first incidences, which are very important, the life of the Prophet of Islam, and also the period of the caliphs, which they get the legitimacy of the work from that. In both areas, we have said things and we have unsaid things. The life of the Prophet of Islam was in Mecca, in Medina. In the incidences that were registered in history, that from a quantitative point of view is more, and also 13 years, and the 13 years only in Mecca, and then 10 years in Medina. Most of the things that are mentioned are about the last 10 years, and our information about the first 53 years of the Prophet's life is very limited. And one of the very famous Egyptian scholars says that the information that we have is the Quran itself, in that what is mentioned, that has been given. And other scholars who have said is that 50 years or 200 years after the life of Prophet. And it has a lot of serious shortcomings. But the text that most of the Muslims agree upon is Quran, and therefore we know more from Quran and the ways and the performances that he had, especially in the 13 years in Mecca that have been mentioned. In also the verses that are Makki and the verses that are Madini. So therefore, we see most issues that were prevalent in that time in Mecca, such as the iman or believing in God. Yeah, and so and mostly they were not related to political systems. Even when the stories of Musa or Abraham or Shuaib or Saleh are mentioned, we see that the centralization of the focus is again on the point. It is about the beliefs and also the ethical side of the issues. And this area, the political or the power issues were not directly focused, and therefore missing of or absence of this shows that during the Prophet's mission, it's something that we take from the general. And also the evidences that are mentioned in the Sirat, the 13 years of the life of Prophet in Mecca was full of incidences, but there are the issues that are not political, are not there, or very vague. So therefore, some of the incidences have been highlighted that the Prophet also had a political project, and it was important in that time. In the first incidents is the sending the Sahabis to Habasha, and therefore that was a system based on religion. And that will be a supporter for the project of Prophet. And also the trip to Taif also was like that, and the writers has interpreted it like that. And also then first and second Taba, and when we see it, because there is no time that we will I will explain every one of them, so that it is a very weak base to get implementation for a political conclusion. When we go to, when the Prophet go to Medina, the first one is the Misaq in Medina, or the agreement or declaration of Medina, and then it is in and then the fights in the battles. The Prophet would assign a leader or a commander, and also if we see the serious political work, for example, to establish that that this is a leader, this is the deputy, this is the consul, and these are the systems did not exist. The Prophet's dealing is something that the tradition that existed among the Arabs. They just got together, and then they consulted. So the Prophet also proceeded with that tradition of his tribe. So therefore, even before Islam, people were doing that for addressing their issues and for settlement of their differences. Therefore, there is nothing different from that during the life of the Prophet. The more important one that we can focus on is the replacement of Prophet. In any political leader can foresee that death is there, and today or tomorrow there will be a death, and after me what will happen to this work that I have started. So for my followers, this is not something that nobody will foresee. And also in the very famous narratives in Baitul Wada, the Prophet said that next year you will not see me. So that were some implications that the Prophet would have said that my life is coming to an end. So he did not mention anybody to replace him, or in the discussion or the speech of Ghadir Khum, he said it, but not very directly in the way that would be the basis for the settlement of this issue to the day that he left this world. He did not make any political line that who should do what, and what role should they play in the political issues. We also don't see any specific terminology in Quran or in Hadith for example, in Samiras and in Quran we have Malik or we have Imam or Sultan. So these terms are used ad hoc basis. So therefore Islam did not have any political terminology at the beginning of Islam. So therefore in the day that the Prophet left this world, the people did not know that what should they do to Hazrat Abu Bakr. And Abu Bakr said therefore we say that is what we say, that he is we call him the caliph or the replacement or somebody who sits in the place of the Prophet after the Prophet, and therefore they call him Khalifa. So until that time it was not even common. There are no documents that it was used. After the Prophet left this world, and then they needed for using this caliph. When it came to the second caliph, Hazrat Omar, we say that we say that he's not the caliph of Rasulullah. He is the replacement of Abu Bakr. So he is the caliph of the caliph, and then they say that then it will be the third person, then it will be caliph of caliph of caliph, so and it will move on and continue. So then finally they use the term of Amir al-Mu'minin or the ruler of the Mu'minin. So therefore it is the missing or absence of the political terminology, that the political or politics was not a very major discussion in this process, and in the processes the Fitna Kubra or the big setup. We see these rights once again, and this rivalry. That something that will be based. One group came, they selected Hazrat Ali as Amir al-Mu'mineen, and another part they went to others, in others Muawiyah and Abraham al-As, they did not accept that. So and the discussions and arguments that were mentioned that are written, that again they did not come to a principle that, for example, this was the way or the method of the Prophet in how to select your ruler. So one areas they say that at one point it was the way that Hazrat Abu Bakr and Hazrat Omar did. So therefore there is no main or basic settlement for addressing or settling the issues. Also, I have written it elsewhere, and it was mentioned that Islam did not have any theory for power, because it is something for the world, and the religion is for the second world. So therefore, in their understanding, in politics is something for this world. So as a result, we see that it becomes legitimacy in a lot of the Islamic scholars come and see this. In no time, they did not act as per accepted. The first the experience of the first 100 or 200 years can be compared to the experience of Greece. For example, Aristotle or Plato, who has said that the role of the ruler, and for example, the objective cities, they were absent, unfortunately, in these ones. Therefore, it was in other ways. So, of course, we will come back to you, Mr. Mohib. 1 minute more, if you just let me 1 minute more. Yes, please continue. So, in fact, for example, today we want to see, as per the experience of the beginning of Islam, and somehow move on our discussion today. We will see that the basis of our work in the beginning of Islam was for the good of the public, and that is clearly understandable, and therefore the Muslims would use that as per their needs. Sometimes the one caliph was selected in one way, or another one was selected another way. So therefore we have open hand, and based on the interest of the common people or common interest, we can decide as per democratic or republic or kingdom, or any ways that the social contract requires. We would find solutions. So it is better that we will not give it a religious basis, because mixing it with religious issues will create problems for us. So in the last point, that if, for example, want to have a political philosophy from religion principles, it is not something impossible, because, for example, the talks and the researches that the Islamic scholars did about different issues, so we can make a draft of a political discussion, but ultimately that will be our understanding, but we cannot say that this is the ultimate final thing for the government, and it's like this or it like that. Thank you very much, Mr. Mohib. Thank you very much, Mr. Mohiq. What we got from your talks is that first, we need a new understanding, understanding, and we need to review and reread the history of Islam. And also, you had a comparison of half-life of Prophet in Mecca and Medina, and therefore now we will continue with Mr. Amiri, because I imagine that he has written an article regarding Islam in Republic would be close to what Mr. Mohiq said, but we still want to hear from Mr. Amiri. Thank you very much. I would like to give my greetings to you and Mr. Mohiq and Mustafawi. I will try to explain this in 10 minutes. My views is the government of Muslims, not an Islamic government. For example, what we have experienced was the government of Muslims, not Islamic government. And also we can find from the Islamic sources of Quran and Hadith, and also from the history. I will mention some factors that was pointed out by Mr. Mohiq, and also what we had during the Amawids and the Abbasids, and throughout the history, they were all the the governments of Muslims, not Islamic governments. So therefore, I will try to explain this in 2 or 3 points. Islam came in a government, in an area, in a land where there was no government, there was no police, there were no coins or money. In Islam did not give any proposal for the government. And this was an invitation of a religious, or a religious invitation, not a political invitation. So this is a point that, as a lot of evidences show it. The second point is that, for example, if we see the history of the rulers of Islam, we see that Islam is not the source or basis of their actions, but the supporting of their actions. So this can actually use those values in implemented, but these values or these rules or not the basis of the acts of the rulers, and most of them they just turn their back to that. But in general, if we see an understanding from Islam, is that Islam has never had a basis for the political performance of a ruler. For example, the establishment of governments or appointment of these rulers, or from this verse of Quran. But of course, the rulers, some of them they were breaching it, but still the Muslims who were loyal to that, and they would raise their voice or go into riots, and that is also very complicated in the Islamic Sharia, in even in the Ahmad Hanbali, the rights against the ruler is not right, because it causes the bloodshed among the Muslims. So therefore, there are a lot of complications. So the understanding is that it created the environment and not the basis, and therefore, based on the Quran and Hadith, and there is no difference between Shias and Sunnis. God is not the creator of the political structures, and we do not see any verse in the Holy Book that God would create the political structures and specify any. So this is something done by the people. And as Mr. Mohek also said, the incidences of the beginnings of Islam shows this, and we do not have any evidences that God was the creator of the political structures or political systems, especially that Islam came into existence in a land where there was no government. So we do not have any evidences for that. And that point, then the third point that is also very important from my point of view, when we consider all these points from its execution, and also from its the equipments and the tools of getting into power, for example, changing it into hierarchy, and therefore from the beginning of the political life of Islam, from Medina, during the life of the Prophet, if we consider, is that we do not see anything by the name of Islamic government, or we see all the governments of Muslims. So the government, the Prophet, in agreement with several people who were there, he establishes a political structure and regularity, despite the fact that it has a lot of issues and they are as per the views in shortcomings. And if we consider the whole of that, then we see to the equipments human made, setups that the Muslims has done that, and also we witness, we do not witness, and Mr. Mohik also said that, and it is very rightly pointing that if we see that after the Prophet up to now, we consider this, we see a very challenging view that never we try the type of the political system will be related to a specific verse of the book. Yes, we give ethical or moral discussions that Muslims say that, for example, you are not right or you are right. So those are moral arguments. For example, you are cruel and we want more justice, and you are not just and fair. So, but of course, these does not mean that we will have something to refer it to. So therefore, the conclusion is that whatever we see and experience as political issues from the governments in Islam. So these were the governments of Muslims. We do not have any text that as per that of Islamic government, and also not the governments who were the rulers and who fought with each other for the power. So that they refer it to a specific verse to get something from it. From the logical point of view, yes. From the format, for example, because the Arabic social structure has been given. For example, the commandments that were very common among the Arabs, yes, in those forms. But fighting on the power, that we would say that, for example, there is a formula of Islamic government, and the Muslims fought each other on that formula. So these arguments there are moral. And also the personal benefits and the preferences. For example, most of them show to the fights between Muawiyah and Hazrat Ali. That, for example, as per this verse or that verse, you are not right. They were said that you are cruel and you are not committed to do the values of Islam. So therefore, you are not right to become the ruler. And because I am just and I'm committed to the values of Islam, so I am more right to be the ruler of the Muslims. So here we see the absence of a text, and therefore, to the extent that we have used during the history of Islam, we witness the rulers of Muslims uses some terms, for example, kingdom or emirate. They are taken from different cultures, and it does not have any foundations or on any basis in the Islamic text. So therefore, our experiences or the governments of Muslims, not Islamic governments. And the last point or final point I want to mention is that the priority of Muslims were the Islam was not Islamic government, because they were not familiar with that term. So this is a new thing. You cannot find that term in Arabic. But when Islam faces any political crisis or find out about its political crisis, then they say that we need to make an Islamic government, and it is the first priority. It is the priority of the extremists or Islamic extremists. For example, the Islamic government can stop, for example, the pilgrimage or the fasting, but they are not based on the principles of ijtihad. And this is a new priority, and its roots come back to the failed contradiction between the Muslims and the Western ideologies, and the Muslims went for various ways or solutions that created more violence in the Islamic world. So Islamic world is a new priority, and the Muslims, part of their history, they spend parts of their history. For example, the occupation of the Mongols. For example, they did not think that there is a weakness of the beliefs. After we had a Jewish minister, and nobody contradicted him on the power. Nobody left. The Mongol Sultan would have a prime minister of Jewish, and then of course the funeral of Islam would have been read in that time, and from that time. And they still wanted justice from that Mongol Sultan, and therefore, as a new term in the dealings of in the failed dealings of Arabs and the Western scholars would be used. Thank you very much from you. Thank you very much, Mr. Amiri. I found it out from your discussion that in the history we do not see anything as the Islamic government, but the government of Islam. And also you have pointed out about some the struggles which were based on the powers. Thank you very much from your talks, and we will continue with Mr. Mustafawi. And Ms. Mustafawi will tell us about Islam and politics. We are very willing to hear from you, Ms. Mustafawi. In the name of Almighty Allah, I also present my greetings to the panelists, and also I thank from the Institute of Strategic Studies and your colleagues. Thank you very much for your very good speeches of Mr. Moheb and Mr. Amiri, and we use it. I believe that I will come with a different view in this regard, and that is that we in an Islamic society, when we discuss about politics, our politics is does not refer the current terminologies, as Ustad also so mentioned. When at the beginning of Islam, for example, when the government was made, we were the Islam were in a very preliminary Arab society where there were no structures or political or government structures or the issue of ruling or they were tribal traditions. But I just want to mention a little bit differently, because it is possible that we did not have specific political terms such as prime minister or president or minister. But the ways and the traits or the behaviors that were there in the Arabic society showed that the Prophet started with politics. For example, the politics that he had against the non-Muslims of that, the commitments, the promises that had with the non-Muslims in other countries, sending of the ambassadors to other countries, the judge, the court, and the judgment system or the justice system that he has made based on the rights of the citizens, children, women, in other vulnerable parts of the societies or world. If we include all of that, it was a very good politics that caused the success of Islam at the beginning. Of use, there are differences in the politics that we call it today. For example, we have a very important sentence says that a lot of Islamic scholars in this regard, they have focused that our politics is our belief, and our belief is our politics. So therefore, the interpreters from Islamic and the scholars have views. Some of them sees politics mixed with Islam, and some of them seizes away. The politics that we talk about in Islam is sincerity, truthfulness, with terms such as of setups and corruptions that we see is completely different from that. And a number of hadiths in the talks of Prophet we have is that the elites of Islam says that those who are in the government they also need to be good politicians. For example, in the hadith from the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, we say that says that the one who is learned and educated and is not ignorant knows the importance of the leadership secrets. And so even in that time the leader of Islam need to be a good politician, and it was emphasized that the work of religion or the responsibility of religion need to be given to those who would lead the followers with the politics. If we come back a little bit further, and when we say that, for example, Amir al-Mu'minin Hazrat Ali, wherever he appointed a ruler to an area, the text that are mentioned in Nahshul Balagha, in the talks that were mentioned in the instructions that he has given, it shows that those were based on specific politics. For example, when the ruling of Egypt was given to one of the rulers, and instructed that for managing of the affairs, you have to appoint people who are the true, who are faithful, and who are clean. And therefore Islam has a specific attention to politics, and therefore obviously if we, for example, the politics with today's view terminologies of our laws and politics and define it, and as Ustad says, that is completely different, but from my point of view, Islam and politics are mixed with each other, and therefore if we use a specific knowledge and that beginning and the Prophet would not use a specific politics at that time, then he would not have been able to be successful in that time. So therefore obviously the governments that today are in the Islamic societies does not have any similarity to that simplicity or that sincerity that the Islam at the beginning had. Today's governments or Islamic governments or the governments that are in the Islamic societies, they are completely different, and probably the courts might judge as per the Sharia, or the judges are appointed as per the Sharia, but they have a completely different politics, and it is not of that simplicity that was the beginning of Islam. So therefore in Islam the works that have been emphasized, for example, regarding the internal policy, external policy, or foreign policy, the or the points that today we see less and less in the Islamic societies. For example, at the beginning of Islam, we say that the Prophet had some rules during the war, and also during the fightings and in the battles, and therefore for example, not attacking women, not attacking the fields, not burning the fields, not attacking the animals. So he stopped people and his followers from that. And even when one of his soldiers, Khalid ibn Walid, and he he committed a violation, and he was forced to pay diya. And that is a special type of justice was desired by the Prophet, and also the patience that he showed towards people, that also implies that he had a special talent and skills of being a good leader in. Also regarding how to treat with the war captives, which are very sensitive issues of human rights that are shown at the beginning of Islam, and these were the achievements of Islam. And also the freedom that is given in politics for the people in Islam, in the arguments. A lot of talks has been done in this regard, regarding the point that people need to have the right to express the truths. For example, maybe it was not as per today's terminologies, but everybody could freely express what they wanted to see, and the respect to the truths, to the truths and the views of people, that the followers of our various religions have the right to express, and also the regulations regarding commerce, regarding heritage, they all show that it was so well placed, and we see those and today's declarations and today's regulations. And one last point that I want to mention is that in the foreign policies also, Islam had very specific issues that was, for example, may not be present in the foreign policy of other systems. Islam focuses more and more on the unity in the of Islamic unity, and a single umbrella among Muslims, in all the Muslims or Islam followers, to be under one umbrella, and to ensure justice in the Islamic society. Setups in killing of innocents are forbidden wherever in the world. When Islam talks that part of Muslims or a member of Muslims or under cruelty, it is our task and responsibility to hurry to save them. And in the foreign policies, for example, Islam never says to start a war, and it is completely forbidden. And also the importance in the privileges of Islam on other religions, and it says that Islam is always on the first hand religion. And probably in a lot of Islamic texts that we see, the borders that we have today, does not talk about it in regarding the citizenship and ID cards, or for example the passports that we have now and we have today, and it focuses more and more that there should be commercial and economical dealings, which causes or makes the reasons for development of Islam, and also the last point, the specifications for an Islamic leadership that it has mentioned as to be just, and that the what specifications or what color or language or tribe should the leader of his Islamic country be is never important for an Islamic politicians, and therefore and the last discussion that I believe that we or in Islamic country, we more and more we see the systems, and we are dealing with that, and not that system or that politics that was at the beginning of Islam, and the Prophet wanted to implement that in the society. So the logo, the models that we have has a big difference with the system that the Prophet has laid down, which was based on justice, very, very easily. Maybe very simple, but the government which has laid the basis of the human rights and other rights. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and I'm very happy that you can have in the panel. You can have a different views to Mr. Amiri and to Mr. Mohek, and it was very good that your view were different from that, and I hope that in answer to the questions, they will also discuss your views. We have a lot of questions, so therefore my suggestion is that if you can answer your questions only in 2 minutes. So the first question, before going to Mr. Mohek, I would like to raise the question from Ms. Mustafawi. Because you pointed out to the politics of the Prophet, that he used the politics, whether internally or externally, and also the moral recommendations or ethical recommendations of the Prophet. The question is that using of this kind of management, does it mean that means having a political system or some ethical recommendations? Because political systems, whether these could be or could make the definition of a political system. I will be very happy if you can answer in 2 minutes, so that we could also answer ask some more questions. Obviously, the definition that we have is from Islam. Is not a political system, but the first movements, political movements, could be. Why not? Because as a society that they did not have anything else than the traditional the tribal traditions, so obvious policy making, and there were some specific politics, so that later on it helped with the establishment of the Islamic political system. Mr. Mohek, you mentioned that Islam did not have any political system or political theory, so that the Said Yahya's book, that this book could be a critic on your view. So I want to raise it to you, and it says that, for example, if we want to define a political system, and this political system is given to humans, and the humans, of course, they have their own needs and wants, and they are naturally greedy. So therefore, whoever be. In this regard, Mr. Yesri believes that humans cannot make a political system themselves. So therefore, it is up to God to define this through their prophets, and to lead the humans in the right view, because he has used that in the book. So I believe, what do you say in this regard, and how natural it could be? Unfortunately, so I'm not very familiar with the books of Mr. Yasri. Only one book I have read, which is a story, and it's a good book. But as someone who is also familiar with philosophy, so what you criticize is something strange to me, because it is the right of every expert to get to a conclusion. But if we say that humans are weak to make a good system, a good system means that it does not have any deficiencies. that desired city where there will be no cruelty or no oppressions and other similar deficiencies. Such a society has never been established in the history of humankind, and never will be, because like that, as it says that such a poem is not even created by God. So therefore, whichever government has been established or system, it had its own critics, even in the past and even now. For example, even the history, the experience of the beginning of Islam, if it is seen critically, then of course we can raise various critics and criticizes in this regard on the performance of the Muslims of that time. I don't want to go into details because it will take very much time. After the occupation of Mecca, the rulers that were appointed from the beginning, what happened in the killing of Malik ibn Umayyah and others. Therefore, and therefore and therefore, as humans, they did it what other humans do, and they take swords on each other and kill each other after the prophet's death, and therefore normally it is recommended we should not mention that several thousand people were killed in that time, and those fights who were involved, the elites and the Sahabas, they were involved in that, and therefore it is not a lie, or the two Sahabis they took swords against each other and killed each other, and of course, and the cities were destroyed, and Mecca and Yemen and Medina. So when the humans enter politics, does not differ whether it's Muslims or Hindus or Jews, they use it, and it has been throughout the history from the Ashuris in very prehistory times up to now. But the experience of today's humans, democratic countries, show that in order to go through this, they created ways that or cheaper. We cannot say that they are without any deficiencies, but the investors and the capitalists, they do not play a role. Nobody can say no to that. But obviously, they are with less expenses. There's a different experience. For example, a president in a very strong country gives it a peaceful transition, and it continues for 200 years. Other than, for example, it is the U.S. Or England or another. But for example, the peaceful transition of power, that you do not have to take power with the force of sword, and we did not have that unfortunately, because all the problems and arguments between Hazrat Ali and Muawiyah was on power, that who is more talented or more qualified for that, or there were differences between Yemeni and Ghafrani and Sham and in other areas, or the northern Arab or southern Arabs. So therefore, that was in fact, it is natural that whoever enters a war want to make it legitimate. So therefore, we do not have any human experience that it would be a pure ethical experience. We Muslims, as humans, also when we enter politics, then we also have our errors and mistakes. politics like any other humans. So therefore, I believe that despite that deficiencies that we do as humans, we have the power that with our knowledge in our brain, we would find a way in order to manage our lives. And the Prophet also focused on this, that your worldly affairs better than me. And it has been mentioned in several hadith books. And also, if you compare the political issues in the life of the Prophet, which was not very much highlighted, and if you compare it, for example, the way he had for other leaders that they had for their replacers, for example, Quraysh. Yes, we took your answer, which was which you cannot see that in that area, because the time of the panel is also about to finish. The question I want to mention is a question you focused on historical evidences, that it is a text, and of course any text can be read differently and understood differently. So what is the difference between Islam and politics? So which way or which behavior should we accept? Referring to the historical text, can we find an answer to that? I'm raising this question because there are some people who are in favor of the Islamic views, and then they say that in the views of the in the sentences of the Prophet saying about the rulers. So then they try to say that it is to justify that something as a and it shows that something existed as the political system in Islam. So we will hear from you, Mr. Amiri, about your views in this regard. So of course it is not important to see what is about the text, what it is before or after. We have to find out what are we looking for. So it does not make any difference. It is about the views that shows. For example, if our objective is that the Prophet of Islam or the Islamic religion has given something, whether before or after, then you will find it from the text, like it has been before. For example, if our imagination is that it is ethical instructions, so we have to mention it in this way, and we have to articulate it in this way, that Islam had focus from the historical point of view in this regard. And if you see that they say that Islam, if Islam is a complete religion, then it need to have politics in it as well. But when we see the fightings and the struggles between this caliph and that caliph, and we see that these fightings are on the power in something that would be taking of a political formula on power from Islam, we do not see it, or for example on a specific article or a specific verse. These are all on their personal justifications that they see that need to be mentioned in a different way. So therefore history can help us in this regard. And your response, I can say that, for example, if we are able to have a historical view and also to view the history of the beginning of Islam, then we do not find even one instance that a political system would have a basis or a reference in Hadith or in Quran. But it finds its roots in the personal justifications and personal preferences, and these are more given to the text of the society or the social issues, and not the Prophet sayings. For example, as Mr. Muhiq also said that regarding the justification of Hazrat Ali, that on the same way that Hazrat Umar and Hazrat Abu Bakr became caliph, I also became caliph. Therefore, these are all the political, ethical issues, and therefore the politics, the killings during the Prophet, and also during the caliphs, which was not less than any society, and we have experienced that. If we do not link it to Islam, then our imagination and our understanding is that Islam is a religion, and we want to see that to mix the religious invitation to political invitation, then that can create a lot of misunderstanding and does not have any logic behind it. Thank you very much, Mr. Amiri, professor and scholar, and also thanks from Pohaniar, Ms. Mustafawi, professor of Kabul University, and also Mr. Mohek, the university professor. Thank you for your time, and also thank you for your views that you have expressed very well here. Thank you all.